Hello, my friends. When I look at the world and see that there's still such a huge percentage of people who are really not aware of what is going on underneath the surface, underneath the surface of what we see unfolding in the world, and believing that, oh, yeah, it's going to go back to normal and, things are going to smooth out. Not really knowing that there's a whole different energy that is moving there. And if we're not aware that we are going through a huge, huge shift, and that the way that we know the world is going to change completely. I remember a spiritual teacher I was with many years ago called Barry Long. He wrote a book called The End of the World as We Know It. And he wrote that many years ago. I should probably pick it up and see what he actually said back then. But that is what we're going through, my friends. We are going through an ending of the world as we know it. And that means that everything we know, we think we know, we believe in, we take for granted, we have always believed in, we think is going to be there again tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. It's like we are living in this dream state where we think that things are going to just continue the way they are and we're going to be okay. And I know there is so much going on out in the world that a lot of people are aware of also. And also, many are beginning to be aware that it's not just what we see. There is there is something else underneath. It's not my expression to share about what is going on in the world. There are many, many people who talk about that. And there are certainly a number of them that I trust. Some of them I even know personally, that I know are very living in integrity, completely connected to the divine and able to discern, willing to be wrong. So there are some people where I really feel that they know what's going on based on what is available to know. So I stay connected with those so that I don't just live completely blindly to what is going on besides what we can see, hear, taste, touch, smell, besides what we can, hear on the news, read in the newspaper, watch on the internet or whatever. There's a lot more going on, my friends. And that's why for me, it is so incredibly important to do whatever I can. I don't have a goal or an agenda that it needs to look a certain way, other than just being in my own process and letting my process, my inner movement, my inner flow dictate how I move through the world, how I speak, what I speak, just always coming back to that place of presence inside and like make myself available for that moment to moment. This is what I feel is so important so that the new energy that is also here, we see the old is here collapsing, or we see the old is here and we may not even see it collapse. We just think, oh, it's going to be fine, or okay, they're going to make these changes here, and that's probably going to be because it's better for us. So there is a tendency for so many people who just go along with the narrative and believe that, those, the government, the authorities, whatever they want to call them, that they know what is best. They know what's going on. So they're doing their best to make it good and right for all of us. Now, of course, it's obvious that it is not good and right for most people, and it gets more and more challenging by the day. I think it's very important to at least be aware that this is happening so that you don't get just pulled into that flow and go along that river or that timeline. I have spoken about timelines before where it seems like we are bifurcating. There's one moves this way, one moves the other. And at this point, we're still, we can still talk, we still understand each other. But the more we move away in different directions, that there won't be much communality anymore. There's not much we have in common, what we want to talk about. There won't even be much interest in connecting because the communication is going to be at such a totally different level that either parties have no interest because we do want to engage with others where there's something that's being ignited inside and that we resonate with. So that is what is already happening. And you may even have noticed that people you used to enjoy or things you used to like, people you can have good conversations with, that somehow it's just not there anymore. And then you find friends, new friends, where you're more connected on their frequency, and that's why you like to hang out more with those, because there is communality, there is resonance, there is a maybe a nourishing a nurturing of being together and sharing same frequency expression, if I can use that word here. And in all of that, and I would say one of the reasons, the main reason that I'm offering my channel here, well, the main reason is that I can't really help it. It's just happening. It's not something I sit down and decide. It's just happening. So I trust that whatever is spoken here and the energy behind it, which is much more important. The words are words, but the frequency behind them, the frequency that is translating into words, that is what goes through, not just to the channel, but that's what goes out. The channel is another outlet for that, but the energy is not restricted to an outlet, but it is nice to have an outlet. So this is exactly what I'm saying right now. If we do not start living aligned with that presence that we are going to get on that other timeline, because there needs to be a very conscious shift from the old paradigm timeline that we have been on, where we have been putting our authority outside of ourselves. It can be in any way, and all the ways that we do it. It starts with our parents and our teachers and maybe our boss, or maybe just somebody, a neighbor who is more assertive than we are. There is a tendency to just defer our energy and our sovereignty and our critical thinking to somebody that we assume knows better. So we don't need to do the thinking and the heavy lifting ourselves. That is the old timeline that's going to move in a different, no, yeah, that's going to keep going in the same direction. And it's up to us if we want to get off that timeline and start engaging with the new one, which is basically coming from inside of our heart. That's the new timeline. That's the new train that I also talked about. That's the one we need to hop on. And in a way, it's not really going that direction. It is going this direction. So it's that feeling that we long for a new world. And my goodness, how often have I talked about longing, right? And following it and listening to it and making ourselves available for it. But you know what? I can't help it. I see So many people are completely oblivious to it. They do not even know that they want something else because it has been so suppressed that it's going to take some work to kind of open up that lid again, that rusty lid, so they can go like, oh yeah, I want that. Oh my God. And there's my be crying and the recognition. And because we're opening up again to what is true for us, what was always true for us before we put our truth out on somebody else. And that is what I feel moved to address over and over and over again. And hopefully reaching people who really want to take this on as serious, as real, and understand that this is the way out. This is the way out of the matrix, another video I did. There is no way out of the matrix when you stay in the matrix. And remember, the matrix uses fear. And fear is what keeps us checked and in line and um, and giving away our power. That is what fear does. So if I keep talking about fear, it's not because I want to add fear to the already too much existing fear in the world. It is because I want to shine light on it so you can start recognizing it. Remember, if you watched yesterday's video, I talked about that fear is the smear that you need to clear. And if we don't do that consciously, you are being pulled right out of your heart, of the place where the divine speaks to you and me and everybody else. So you're being pulled out of it and over here. And in that, you give away your sovereignty, you give away your power, your wisdom, your critical thinking, and your vision or your intention, the dream that is wanting to be born through and as you in your heart. That is what we give away. And that underlying thing that I mentioned just a little earlier that is happening that most people may not be aware of, that is exactly what it wants. So it can stay alive and feed on our fear. It's the best meal it can get, and it will take it 24/7 before anything else. Even if you offered it the best chocolate, it wants fear. It thrives on fear. And we are so programmed to be afraid. So if we don't tackle it, you can be sure it tackles us. And it keeps us in that timeline that is moving away from here. Because the more we give our energy to that underlying thingy, the stronger it gets and the weaker we get. So it is so important to really, really learn to listen to what is it that you long for? What is it that you really, really want without cutting it off, without pretending or thinking you shouldn't have it or it's selfish or I can't have it anyway, whatever. No, that's not true. It's not true. It is here for a reason. It is here for you to get on that ride, that timeline, that train, and let it take you where it knows that this new earth is already existing. It's not out there, it is in here. But since we do live also in the third dimension, this here lived as a heartfelt intention, it does start rippling out as our true nature. Again, we don't need to become something we're not. We just need to become what we already are. And that is the new earth. There's no duality in that. There's just realizing that I am that and just allowing it to ripple out, like I have mentioned a few videos ago, that it's the intention that is heartfelt and that we embrace with a yes, then you send out the ripples. And it doesn't have to be, the intention, I want a new earth, I want a loving planet or whatever. And if it's there as a heartfelt longing and intention, then go with that. But for a lot of us, probably for a while, there is that heartfelt longing to be more ourselves, to be more at peace, to be more loving, to be more confident in speaking our truth and being who we are. That is all here. That is the longing to be a fully divine human. That's here. And the reason we long to be that and become that is because that is the new frequency that is beginning to move in while it's moving out the old. So, but if we hang out to the old, this is pushing away the old, but it's going to go somewhere else as long as there are still people buying into it and hopping on that train. But it's going to be moving away from our experience because we have an intention now that sends out these ripples, and then a new frequency can start manifesting in this dimension as us, as our new expression. So it really is a choice. Which timeline do you want to be on? Do you want to stay on the one that is going down and you want to hold on to it and do as they tell you to do because you're afraid, and you're afraid to stand up and say, this is not right for me or for the world? Or, yeah, so is that what keeps you hanging on and doing things that you really don't want to? And not only that, that inside from here, it's like, that's not right. That's just not right. And then most people do it anyway because they are so afraid of the consequences. Afraid, there's the word. They're so afraid of the consequences. Matrix, right? If you don't do this, this bad thing will happen. These are the things we need to catch and say, there it is. There it is. Matrix. Don't want that. That moves me away from my heart, from the divine, from my true essence, from my soul connection. No. Go back. Go back and feel your intention. And know, vibe that energy. Like, yeah, I really want to express and become or be more loving, softer, more authentic, but in a confident way, not in a battling way, like, oh, I know. No, it just comes as a naturally being you when you don't need to defend yourself anymore. The defending is because you're not sure yet if it's okay to be you. And then we can come into some kind of a battle thing, and then it comes out as harsh, and then you're still not being what you really want. Then you're still feeding your energy to fear, right? Because you're afraid you can't be yourself. So you're still feeding the matrix. So it's so tricky and so subtle. And I guess I'm just going to keep sharing it. I don't know if how many people really can relate to this, if this is something that you want to take the time to purify yourself so much from all that fear, right? The fear is the smear that you have to clear from yesterday's video. And that's what's being asked of us. If you clear the fear, then you can go yeah, there it is again. If you clear the fear of the smear, then you can go here. Then you can stay here because it is the fear that pulls you out of here and makes you go on a very different trajectory based on fear. So hopefully that will land as a realization that this is what we all need to do. And you can. You really, really can. If you need some help, and most of us do, I have gotten tons of help in the past, and I still reach out now. I have certain sources that I know I can reach out and get the support and the help or the feedback. It's very, very helpful. There's nothing wrong with that. Thinking that you should be able to do it on your own, that's all matrix nonsense. It's like, absolutely not. We're all here together as one. And if one can be lifted up, then it impacts all of us. So we're all here to help lift each other up. So please reach out if you would like to explore maybe working with me to get out of that fear mode more and get more into your heart, find out what it is that lives here, how to make that transition from going the wrong direction to coming back and start really moving from that true energy that is you. Okay, my friends. Oh, and I should also say, I think not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, August, what is it? 3rd, 1st, something like that. There, I'm having my next online gathering, and we meet once a month. It's called Feel Your Deepest Longing, right? Find your spiritual calling. It's connected. It's one thing. It's one thing. So it's really important to get in touch with this longing in here so we can align with that and make ourselves available for what we came here for. So we do that every first Tuesday of the month. And the link, if you want to join, is also in the description below. Okay, friends, I'll talk to you soon.